All right, so I'm going to be talking a little bit about ball position, ball placement. Now, when I'm getting up, this is for a chip shot. So we've graduated from putting. We're now moving into what's known as a chip shot from around the green. So in this case, I'll be standing about 4 faces away, club head faces. And what I do is, what you want to take note of is the wider your stance is, the less your hips will turn. So with a chip shot, it's really about turning your body. So I like to have my feet closer together as I'm turning so that I can turn through the shot. Now, where exactly is the ball, ideally, should it be positioned? Well, not quite in the center. I like for a standard chip shot to be one ball back in my stance. Does that make sense? So this would be forward, closer to my left toe, and this would be back, closer to my right toe. So I like to have it just center, but just maybe one ball back in my stance for a chip shot. And again, that's actually with my club face a little bit forward, and then I just like so. Thank you. All right, so I want to talk about one thing real quick. This is what's called the rough. When you're hitting a chip shot, you almost always want to use your highest lofted wedge. In my case, it's a 62-degree, also known as a sand wedge. Here is what's called the fringe, or the first cut, and then over here is the green. And the green, you want to use a putter whenever you can. It statistically gives you the best probability, but not from the thicker grass. So that's usually the case for most professional opinions. Stand about 4 putter faces away. And this chip shot, if you can remember earlier, I play it about 1 ball back in my stance. And so it's going to go a little bit lower, and since it's a sand wedge, it's not going to roll too much. See that? It's about 1 foot away. So again, just so that you can see, the ball is about, so what, 1 ball back in my stance, tuck my sleeve in, and I just turn. I try and have my feet closer together so I can turn my hips. Thank you. Now, this is my highest lofted wedge. I carry 3 wedges. I carry a 62, a 58, and a 54. I guess also a pitching wedge. So 4 wedges. But I want to talk specifically about this. This is right here is how it is at impact. But when you're hitting a flop shot and you want it to come in really high and soft, you want to add more loft. So instead, this would be de-lofting. You want to add more loft. And I do that by opening the face and by putting it back more so that it's pointed more toward the sky. The reason for that is so that it comes in higher and softer. So let me show you what that looks like in ball position. So again, 4 faces away. Instead of a square face like this, I like to open it up. I open it up, point it, and then I put my hands back. And then now I'm probably 2 balls forward in my stance, and I get a little more flex in my knees, and you can see that the club is much more pointed toward the sky. That's how you bring it in high and soft, so it comes in and stops instead of rolling out. Thank you. All right, so here we go with our flop shot. Now, this is the one where we talked about having the face really open. This one's gonna come in super high. It's gonna come in and land, and it's not gonna run out hardly at all, maybe a couple inches. So here we go, 4 feet away. I'm playing it forward in my stance, which means closer to this left foot. And I'm gonna take a bigger swing and try and get under it. This shot requires quite a bit of practice. You go here, get some good flex in your knees. And look, if you can see it, bam, and it just lands, rolls out. That's about 2 feet, just a couple inches. So, thank you. This is another shot I want to talk about. It's called a bump and run. As you remember in my other video, I had a wedge. It looked different than this. This is a pitching wedge, but most chip shots, I prefer to use my highest lofted wedge. Now, here's what you want to keep in mind. The higher the loft of the wedge, the more likely the ball will not roll out as far. So the less loft it has, the more it'll run out. For example, if you decide to do, in this case, a bump and run, I'm going to use this club, which goes farther, but it's going to go lower and roll out more. So 1, 2, I like to stand about 3 faces. So a bump and run I'm actually going to have the ball even a little further back in my stance, maybe even 2 balls back in my stance, or maybe 1. And I like to have my hands a little bit more stiffer, and I turn through, same concept, but what you're gonna find is that ball stays closer to the ground and it rolls out a lot more. Similar to a putt. Thank you. Faces away. Now in this case, if you remember last time, this is the bump and run shot. So I play this pretty far back in my stance, and I oftentimes will lock my hands a little more. And what I do here is, you're gonna notice the ball's gonna go really low and it's gonna run out a lot. So I don't even have to take it back that far. It's probably about 12 yards out. See that? See how much it's rolling? And that's about 1 foot. So what you wanna make sure that you do is you play it back in your stance and a little bit stiffer with the hands, and you just like so. So I wish you the best. Thank you for listening.